So we as S24 try very hard to track what young people are up to, and most importantly, how they can make a better life for themselves. This young man is 32 years of age, very young man. You're still a young man.
Yeah, it counts. Yeah.
Still a young man. This man has been featured in the New Vision 40 under 40 most influential people in Uganda. That was this weekend. Before that, the Huffington Post wrote an article about him. Mind you, he's only 32 years of age. And before that, the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, noticed the work that Abbas Mpindi does through his Media Challenge initiative. So why we want to bring people like Abbas onto this show is to show you as a young person, if you're sitting at home and saying, government mutuyambe, you know, I mean, everything. I mean, you don't get a job, you say government nyamba. I mean, you know, you can do it yourself. So this gentleman, Abbas Mpindi, decided one morning that, you know what, I'm going to change my life, and this is how he did it. Abbas, it's good to see you.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
But most importantly, Abbas, for those people who are watching at home, I want to know from you, first and foremost, how did you come up with this idea of the Media Challenge Awards? Oh, Media Challenge Initiative, yeah.
So it's really a failed internship. I went to ask for an internship, and someone said you need to be recommended by someone inside the station, and I don't think that's the process. So on my way back to school, out of frustration, I'm thinking how many other young people go through the same challenge. And that's how we started to, as students, to organize the first inter-university media competition named after the late Bale Francis. And the idea was, if you, for example, as a media manager, I surround you with around 50 young people who are talented, it's going to be hard for you to choose your relative or someone you know that is close to you. So the idea was, let's bring young people together and surround them to media managers and editors and have them showcase their talent. And then they can be scouted live from there, but in the process building their confidence and also improving the quality of media in Uganda.
But someone who's watching at home must wonder, you must have some form of a super brain. How did you come up with this initiative? Because let me put it this way, yeah? There's so many people in Uganda who are in the media, so many brilliant people, but they go through life just perhaps on the periphery of media, never making such an impact, like the impact there's no doubt you have made. How did you come up with this idea? Did you sit down, write it out, think about it for years?
No. So I think part of like my problem-solving brain dates back to my growing up with my grandmother, who was literate, didn't go to school, and she tasked me to be the man in the house. So you do the work because you know you have to be the guy in the house or in the arena. And over the years I realized I would face leadership positions. I would come into leadership positions, and not by myself going there, but rather someone identifies that you can lead. And the process of starting the Media Challenge initiative again was out of really the frustration of we can't break into the industry. So how can we make sure that we ease penetration of young people into the industry? And out of that anger and desire, the idea of the Media Challenge initiative was born.
The challenge of the Media Challenge Awards, was born, and there you can see it on your screen. It has brought together some of the most impressive names in media. Tell us some of the people you've worked with.
So some of the young people, maybe there are very many that I think around over 50 young people that are in different media houses working as reporters, news anchors, and raters. I mean, Hannah is here already. You have Yvonne, who also works here, so it's a good start.
We've made our contribution.
Yes, and thank you so much for taking on some of our talented young journalists.
Now, I want to know from you, the young people in Uganda feel so frustrated many a time, and people might ask, someone might ask you, Abbas, should I just veer and venture into being an entrepreneur, or should I wait for the job? Keep on writing my application letters and my CV over and over again.
I am from a school of thought that everyone has an idea they could build. It's a matter of believing in that idea and working so hard to make sure that they achieve it. You could have a full-time job where you work, but if you have a dream, don't let it go because you have a full-time job. Continue working on it, because as I was running to start Media Challenge Initiative, I had a full-time job. So I would make sure that my lunchtime, I'm at the Media Challenge Initiative working, and after work from 6 to 10, I dedicate, and sometimes up to 2 a.m. in the night. So there is no way you can say that you would focus on easily one thing right now, unless that one thing is your dream and you're building it. Right now I'm focusing on Media Challenge Initiative full-time because I've realized I have to give it my all, maybe for the next 2 or 3 years for me to see like, okay, now we're on takeoff stage. And until then, for now, I'm there.
Of course, you've met some impressive people. You've been featured in the Huffington Post.
Yeah.
You've been, like I said, named 40 under 40, one of the most influential young men. But most importantly, you've also met Barack Obama. What did he have to say to you?
I think for me, the biggest highlight was getting him to mention my name and the name of our organization in his speech, not just any other speech, but the speech that he gave when they were celebrating 100 years of Nelson Mandela. And I didn't meet him in person. I was part of...
So during one of his keynote addresses, he mentioned
Yes,
your name?
Yeah, I was selected for the Obama Leaders Program, Africa. And amongst, over 200 young leaders from 44 countries in Africa, we were all in South Africa at the time in a training when my name was mentioned. And probably it gets back to storytelling and how you tell the story of your work, that our work was selected out of 200 other young leaders that were there. And it was an honor to just know that he now knows something about the work that we're doing.
I want to know, because a lot of journalists, Uganda spurns out a lot of journalists. Are you happy with the standard of journalists? And what does the MCI do to improve on perhaps what the university has already done?
Yeah. I can say I'm 100% happy with the quality of journalism in Uganda. I must say that it's growing because of either different opportunities, different media platforms, the internet as well. And what we need now to invest more is in human resource. As Media Challenge Initiative, we're putting a lot of energy and time into providing young journalists an opportunity to practice, because what I wished I had when I was a journalism student is what I want them to have. I wanted to practice. I wanted to be in the industry. I didn't get that.
You wanted the practical aspect of
I
the
couldn't
course.
get that in school, and I know that there are very few limited universities that provide that. So if I can contribute, something for a Hannah or an Yvonne to really get their hands on and ease their entry into the market, then I can do that. And in the process, as we develop them, we work on improving the quality, we work on the style, we work on what kind of journalism they're doing, and in the future hoping that can make the world a better place.
Okay, well said, Abbas. Many times journalists, especially young journalists, complain that they're not well paid. Your take on that? Because you've become a wealthy young man.
Wealthy, we are getting there. I think that there's still a lot to do when it comes to the welfare of journalists. There is,
I'm looking at the young ones, the
yeah.
young journalists, yes.
So for young journalists, one is, I think we need to look at the passion. One, you need to develop your passion and also develop a skill, and then develop an experience, because only then you can.
You said develop a passion, the skill,
and then an experience.
And then
for
an
someone
experience.
To say, oh,
True.
I've seen you on TV, or I've seen your articles, or I've seen your blog, or I've seen your video on social media, and they would want to take you on. If you're good enough, then you're able to ask for a certain price. But if you are not yet at the level where you can be, recognized, then it becomes hard for you to ask for a huge amount of price. But nevertheless, we have to start somewhere, and that's the idea of internships, volunteer work, for those who don't have any experience, for you to be able to say, this is what I can talk about in my CV.
Okay, as a young person, we talked about it, in a country where 70% of the population is made up of young people, yeah? How would you want them perhaps to plan their future in the next 5 years? Like, for example, in media, it has changed so much, yeah? We are no longer, I mean, the issue of being a reporter, being exclusive to a group of people is no longer the case.
Yeah.
Everybody who has a digital gadget has a right to be a pseudo-producer, a pseudo-journalist. How are you, what do you think the journalism landscape is going to look like for a young person in the next 5 years?
So what we developed this idea of a one-man, one-woman army journalist. So someone who can produce content for various platforms, radio, TV, online.
So you have to be a multitask journalist.
Yes, you should be able to produce content for every platform. And when they say we need a young person who can do camera work, present, report news, very good on social media, so that if you were able to establish your own small studio at your home, you can still produce content. And I think
so content is king.
Yes, we are driving towards content, and journalists might realize that they don't really have to be at a specific station to work with them. Maybe
that is true.
Yeah, so
you can be that great contributor
yes.
to a great station.
Yes.
Well said. We're going for a quick commercial break. Abbas Apidi is still in studios with me. Abbas is, of course, the gentleman behind the Media Challenge initiative. If you're a young person today, you should listen to Abbas's story. He has been voted 40 under 40, one of the most influential Ugandans, and of course, also marked by Barack Obama as one of the youngest influences on the African continent. We'll be right back. It is the 18th day of December 2018. Good morning. You are tuned to the news updates here on Smart24. I am Beatrice Mujuni. KCCA has carried out an operation that has left properties locked up due to the failure of owners to pay rental tax. According to the year's budget projections, URA is expected to collect tax amounting to more than 120 billion shillings in the financial year 2018-2019. This represents a significant increase from the 72 billion shillings collected in the financial year 2016-2017. Since May 2018, the Uganda Revenue Authority has been on a nationwide campaign to register landlords and their property to enforce the tax compliance. Military Barracks Zone, Makinde in Kampala, was among the areas with the different landlords that were registered and their houses labeled with numbers from the URA and KCCA officials.
Ekibaddewo leero mu kitundu kyange be basajja ba KCCA abazze ne baggala amayumba g'abatuuze bange olw'okubeera nti tebasobodde balandlord kulaba nti basobola okusasula ssente ezibabaez'obusuulu n'ensuubuzi bwa KCCA. Ekikolwa ekyo tetuli ngafa abakulembeze abamu nti no tuli mabega w'abantu okujeema okusasula ssente ezo ogwo omusolo gwe gutuyamba okusobola okulaba nti tutambuza ebintu mu bitundu byaffe ng'okukola enguudo amalwaliro biki n'ebirala ng'ebyo naye engeri ekwatibwamu abantu ababa bazze y'embeera etali nnungamu bulungi
ku bantu ne batamanya nti muntu ki ali supposed okubeera ng'awa omusolo na muntu ki atalina kubeera ng'awa omusolo. Kati otunulira omusolo guno ogwa ground tax oba ogwa rental tax, omusolo tegulina makulu era tegugasa bantu mu perspective nti osanga nti mulimu abantu ng'alina akayumba katini ne bajja ne bakateekako omusolo nga n'obusente obuvaamu buwafiziza abaana be.
Lawyers involved in land cases have been advised to stop being land brokers. Stephen Barozzi, the proprietor of Genuine Estates, says instead of helping people with land issues, lawyers have instead become land brokers, which has given the profession a bad reputation.
Sabana banamateeka abalala nammwe ababadde mukyuse nga mufuuse babulooka muddeyo mu mirimu gyammwe mu professional zammwe mukole kye mulina okukola muyambe eggwanga lyaffe kubanga ffe abantu ba bulijjo tuba tubeesiga nti kati ke kaseera akagenda okuyamba mmwe mugenda okutuyamba.
Barozzi says this has caused escalation of land fraud in the community.
Tegeeza abantu kye batamanyi naddala mu mbeera y'amateeka nga bagula ebintu byabwe ate bw'okyuka n'odda ku sayidi endala etali ntuufu eggwanga lyaffe oba olitaddeko erinnya ebbi so mbasaba bannamateeka abadde mu mbeera eyo mwetereeze.
Barozzi has also commended Smart Television for joining the fray of business journalism and urges the community to use the television station to market their goods and services.
Okuleeta obuweereza aba smart era temujjanga okwo obuweereza buno nzikiriza nti bugenda kubona Uganda yonna era na bonna Uganda agenda kusanyuka ku lwa smart. Tweyanzege namwe abatuwuliriza n'abatulaba mwebale nnyo okutambula nga mujja mu Genuine otuwagira ate nga bwe smart.
The price of petroleum is set to drop drastically following a decision made by the government of Uganda to import petroleum products on Lake Victoria instead of roads. Mr. Peter Kalisa, the corporate affairs manager at the Uganda National Oil Company, UNOC, says they have secured a badge that will transport more than 2 million litres of fuel from Kisumu in Kenya to Jinja per trip.
300 acres of land to build a storage terminal, and that storage terminal will be connected to the refinery by a 210-kilometer pipeline. Now that pipeline will be bringing products from the refinery, so it will be bringing diesel, kerosene, petrol, all these products that we use. They will be stored there, and then the suppliers will come and pick them from that terminal. That terminal is planned to eventually have capacity to hold 240 million litres of petrol, or rather of refined products, not crude.
Now, as the festive season draws near, bus and taxi operators in Kampala say they are likely to make losses given the smaller number of passengers in comparison to the previous years. Mr. Mayanja Goloba, the manager of Naval Bus Company, and Kanzali Katungulu, the manager of Friends Bus Company, attribute the situation to low disposal income among Ugandans.
Okusinziira ku ntambula ey'omwaka oguwedde bizinesi zatambula bungi abantu baali bangi nga basulako n'okusula ku gasipaka naye ku luno okuva Desemba yatandika entambula etambudde bulungi abantu batono abantu gye batambula nga engeri abantu bali abaavu balina
ne bonakako wansi wetukola ebijja kulaba emmotoka zikyalimu nnyingi naye ate oli mu nnaku zino ng'abasaabaze be balinda emmotoka naye kati ku ssaawa ya leero ffe tulinda abasaabaze naye oli twajjanga ng'opaakinga ku paakingi abasaabaze ne bagitulamu ne mugenda.
Meanwhile, Mr. Faizo Lule, the chairperson taxi operators at Namayube Bus Terminal, who also doubles as the head of security on the Kampala Operation Taxis Association, denies the claims that they hiked prices unfairly.
Zino kampuni zivale tezinaba kulinnyisa bisale olw'embeera nti tebasobola kwongeza bisale ate nga tewali basaabaze. So ttannappi abasaabaze ebadde ekyali ntono weewaawo olw'okuba nti ssente mu bantu temuli.
In addition, he says passengers must be aware of conmen that usually flood bus and taxi stages to hoodwink passengers with the aim of stealing their luggage or money.
Receipt ya company n'akusalira receipt n'akuggyako ssente zo n'akulaga nti ng'ava in that very company kumbe receipt ebeera eri fake. So mbaka bonna badde kwa abasaabaze nga bajja ku terminal making sure nti bakozesa offices za bus company ezo ze bagenda okukozesa.
Lule also warns drivers against overspeeding to avoid road accidents normally characterized in the festive season.
Kulaba nti reducing up speed following road signs to avoid that accident.
Thank you very much. Glad you could join us for the updates here on Smart24. Do stay tuned for more updates at every top of the hour and more programming here on S24. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned to Smart24, where we believe in smart business and inviting guests who are extremely knowledgeable and who have had an experience with business and changed their lives. And we usually look at young people because, you know, many of you who are watching at this time and the population in Uganda is pretty young. But let me read about what Jamie Swift, a contributor and journalist and PhD candidate at Howard University, wrote in the HuffPost about my guest. She says, Abbas Mpindi is a man on a grand mission, and that mission is to ensure Africa, its people, and journalists from the continent are thoroughly represented and are in positions of power in the media. Tired of the misrepresentation and the rampant stereotypical media narratives about Africa, like, for example, HIV and AIDS, etc., Abbas, aged 30 at the time, when the HuffPost wrote about him, decided to create his own organization, the Media Challenge Initiative, to ensure the narratives, stories, and voices of Ugandan and other African journalists are heard. So he believes in African journalists telling the African story or telling the African narrative. Most importantly, Abbas, do you think what she wrote is true about you? Are you that person who believes that Africans must tell their own stories?
Yes.
Especially the young people.
Yeah.
You know, the young people are busy following Beyonce, they're busy following Jay-Z. So you believe we should follow our own narrative, create our own agenda?
Yes, it's simple. If we can't tell our own stories, no
who will
one is
tell them
going,
for us? That's true.
To tell those stories. So I believe that even beyond journalists, people, individuals, through their handles, social media, they should be able to show to the world that story that is happening, you know, in your community, who is doing what in your community, if there are any issues that need to be a showcase to the world. So, but journalists, because we have, you know, a bigger role to inform the world, then it should be our mandate. I see that most countries, they take their countries first. They showcase their countries in good light, and I think that should be the same spirit that we have. We can still be objective, we can still be accurate, but making sure that we put our stories as a country that show us in delight.
But a young person who's watching will say, but Abbas, you're talking a lot of hot air. That doesn't sell. You know, that is the truth. Yeah. Actually, they'll tell you, like, talking about the lady, I'm sure there's a lady, we usually feature a lot of SMEs, we feature young men, young women who do really small business, small scale business, and they work really hard. And we tell their stories, decent men and women doing a good job. But however, the journalists, the young journalists certainly do not want to report about that. They want to report about the sensationalism, the celebrity was seen here, whatever, not setting the agenda, just being plagued in sensationalism. Yeah. How do you change that?
It's honestly a process, Jane, because no one wakes up one day and says, oh, it's over. So there is an idea of solutions journalism where we cover responses to problems. For every one problem you find like 10,000 people working on something to change that issue. And as journalists, we tend to focus on the problem. If it's like people dying, we tend to focus on the numbers of people who have died and all that. And we forget the other, stories that are actually doing great to change that issue that's going on. So it's a process, and you realize even online, a lot of people will click sensational stuff. But
that's true.
It's also true that there's a good number of people who click on inspirational stories because they want to watch, oh, this person is doing this in this community in this way. Maybe I'm also facing the same issue in my community. How can I tap into that, idea and also see how it can be replicated in my community? So it's a process, and we feel that as we tap into the young journalists who are going to be prime time in the next, 5 years, they should be able to have the mentality of actually appreciating, these stories that are human interest.
Certainly human interest stories are very important, but most importantly for you as a young person, if you're sitting there and wondering, how did Abbas do it? He decided one day out of frustration from getting an internship that he was going to make his own initiative that would guarantee that people get good placements, not because of the color of their skin or their creed or their sex, or regardless of that. He just said, you know what, I have to make my own initiative and make sure that I can give people opportunities. A young person who's watching now is saying, Abbas, you don't have a job. How much money are you making? Or how much money can someone make from an initiative like this? Or it's not about the money, Abbas?
The start has always been never about the money, honestly. Because when we started, when we started 2012, we had a proposal of 99 million to do this big event. We got only 300,000 Uganda shillings. Now, that meant like all the other things on the budget could not be catered for, but we didn't stop, so we continued to do the event. In 2016, when we opened up our office, we didn't have anyone to fund us, so we had some savings. I had worked for like 3 or 4 years, so I had saved like $7,000. So I said, let's open an office with more of my friends also bringing their savings. Over time, we've realized that you can't just run an NGO. You have to have a business side to it.
Yeah.
So we run a social enterprise. We have a production unit. So we'll do photography, videography, animation.
I like the way that you said that you can't just run. You just can't run an NGO, you must run a business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So besides, we have a project that works, it's, I would say, charity. We're giving back to the community. We go to the schools, train university students, but we also have an academy where we train young journalists who don't have access to a studio like this one, who don't have access to radio studio. And then we also do productions. So someone may say, come and do photography to the event, come and do we want an animation for a company, an advert. So we do some of those things. And then I also, provide some consultancy where people need, you want to talk to someone about the media industry and where they want to develop their skill one-on-one. And that's how we make some money to survive on. But we still not at the level where we're saying we're in this for the money.
Yeah.
We believe that the moment you build trust, the moment you build credibility as a young person, and the moment you build like a brand, then the money will follow that brand.
So just repeat those again for the young people who are watching.
Build. First of all, build a product, and put in a process, and then build a brand and credibility around that, so that everyone says, "I want to be part of that."
And then the money will flow through.
Yes, I want to be part of the media challenge events, and then of course the money follows that. People want to associate with something that's really working and something that is has numbers of people. So, and for the beginning, that's your vision to build, so that there is that idea or story that people can say, "Oh, there's this one happening in this community. Let's be part of it." And then the money will follow.
Okay, but most people, young people who are watching, don't want to work hard, and it's running a good business requires you to work hard, and there's no shame in working hard. Your take on the youth now wanting everything for free?
I would say don't go in any business if you can't, do the dirty work, because I say I'm the CEO, but you'll find me sweeping and making sure that the place is clean. You'll find me carrying, some of the cameras and all the machines, but we have a team that probably should be doing that, but sometimes we are all spread apart. And most people will say, but you're the boss, don't do that. No, because I don't think we've reached the level where I can sit down and be like, I can't do this, and that's how people, and that's also the aspect of leadership. Like people see the example that you portray. People will do it because you're also not shy to do it. So the idea of, I have started this, business for just 1 year, and I want to sit behind and have workers just to run around, can't really work unless you have, I don't know, a background that has a lot of millions of money that is being invested in your small business. But for us who have to
work hard,
it's all about that. And the more you put yourself into the business, the more creative you become to like building other ideas around that. But if you're out of it just to see other people do it for you, then soon it will be done, because maybe some other people are creative enough to take some money out of it.
And in the next few years, what are you going to do, Bass? I mean, you were just named one of the most influential people, 40 under 40, one of the most influential young people in Africa. How do you think your life is going to pan out, if you wanted it to, in the next 5 years, if God wills?
Jen, I tend to live in the now. So I live today and I do whatever I was doing today.
You do whatever you do today.
But there are wishes that, as an idealist that we've had for a long time, we want to be able to create a media station for young people where they can practice, and big stations like yours can come and say, I've seen your person there, I want to take them. Right now we have a pool of over 3,000 young journalists who have been through the program since 2012. They may not be able to, be in the industry, all of them. So to create a platform where they can practice will help us to not lose them to other things. So that's our dream, where we can create a platform where they can produce content and be supported. And then we can create kind of a facility where they can have a shelter, come sit down, work on their photography, work on their videos, documentaries, using the space that we will create. And hopefully we can expand to East Africa, to Africa, and have other young entrepreneurs in those countries run their own media challenge initiatives there, and then we can run the Africa program.
Okay, big plans. We wish you the very best. But most importantly, Abbas, for a young person who's watching today, they will say that, but Abbas has all the connections, he knows everybody. Did it start out that way?
No, I've never had any connection in my life. But I think you can create connections. So I am...
No, because actually they say it's not about what you studied,
Yeah.
Show me your network. Show me your social network, and I will show you your value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very true. But what I mean is that you can create that network. First off, I'm an orphan. I lost my dad when I was probably 2 years, and I grew up with my granny and my mom. I lost my mom when I was around 10. Lost my granny who brought me up when I was in Form 5. So my humble background didn't have all these connections of, oh, you know who is who in town. But I worked hard. When I got an internship, I really, really worked hard to show the bosses that, you know, I can produce work or I can do whatever you tell me to do. If we had events, I was the one running around the whole place, making sure that everything is set, so that I give them a chance to miss me when I go back to school. And that would happen. So my first job, I didn't look for a job. My first job came from a network I created when I was doing my internship.
Okay.
So someone said, oh, I remember you, I'm getting a new company. Can you come and work with me? And that's why I started working in NGOs. Then over time, your ideas develop a network. So if you have an idea, people say, oh, we know this person is doing this, get to know them. Now, sometimes over, it's not many years, 3-4 years down the road, people say, oh, we meet a bus. You know? And it can be flattering to just get people to say, meet so and so. And that's a network that I'm saying you can create. You don't have to be, if you're born with it, honestly, good for you. You know, there's no bad thing for you to have a background that has networks. But even, I would say, if you have that privilege, how do you use it to serve others? So now I have created a sort of a network with, let's say, media houses that I can call you and say, Jane, I have this young person who has this and this and this skill. And you will listen because I have created something that you believe in. And so if I have it now, then let me use it to help and support other people.
Oh, well said, Abbas.
Thank you.
As we part, Abbas, your parting shots to a young person who's watching today who says, hey, I've just finished university, I don't have a job, I'm broke, I'm anxious about my future, and I don't have a business, I just don't know how to make money. What would your advice be?
I would say you're living in really better times than probably 10 years ago, when people, 10 or 12 years ago, when people didn't have the internet. Now you have internet where you can do a lot of research and find different opportunities, and even train yourself to doing different things using YouTube tutorials to learn to edit, because the moment you have a skill, you can pitch it. So it's possible for someone to just walk into here and say, hey, Jane, my name is so-and-so, I can edit. I'm really good at this, if you've developed it.
So the issue is focus on the skill.
Yes, develop something that you can tell. Develop a story that you can tell. So if you walk into Jane's office and say, I am a good news anchor, but you must have done that before. So even in your own sitting room at home, find something that you can say, oh, today I added, maybe I learned how to, do audio editing, or I have learned how to write.
Or you can even have a podcast, you can even have a YouTube channel.
So there are all these opportunities that you can take advantage of. But then the last thing would be, I like people who really, really dream. So if you have crazy, crazy ideas, it's always important to talk about them and share them with people, because then someone says, oh, it can work. Or maybe you add this component as well. So don't sit on your dream if you have one.
And most importantly, what he said is quite important, because I also believe in having vision boards. You know what a vision board is? You create a board, you cut out everything that you've ever wanted, and you stick it on that board. And you know what they say? That if you believe so strongly in something, it usually happens.
It will happen.
Yeah.
It happens.
It usually happens. Okay. Thank you, Abbas.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure to have you here.
You.
Abbas Pindi really needs no introductions. One of the most influential young men in Africa, most influential also, 40 under 40 in Uganda. and behind the Media Challenge Initiative. I'm Jane Kasumba. This is Smart Business. We'll be right back.
Kwaniriza ku smart24 amachaga leero nkubuuzaako nti wasitano sebo naawe nyabo nze terakaya mu mawulire ag'essaawa zino tugatandise n'abagoba aba takisi awamu ne bbaasi mu Kampala bategeezezza nti si baakwongeza bisale bya ntambula mu kiseera kino.